It's August 16th, 2021. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 136 of Roqe. Hope you are keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Durud, salam dostan aziz, umivar hastam ke khub va mizun bashin. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Welcome to one of our special themed episodes of Roqe this month. Hi Groovy Shaya.
Hi Azizam.
Hi Azizam. We've had we did the champions and then the broadcasters, and today we are focusing on the screen gems, three remarkable humans of Iranian descent, all of them women who have made and are making a significant contribution in the realm of acting, film, and television. So first up, the American Assassin star Shiva Negar in Los Angeles, then the Bollywood star and model Mandana Karimi in Mumbai, and then the NCIS and Homeland television star Nikar Zadagon joining us from Santa Fe. That's all coming up, and we are coming to you on roqemedia.com. It is there that you can link to all of our platforms and where you can become a patron of this program. Please do. We're on our ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity, coming to you on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and CastBox. If you'd like to see some visuals with Roqe and see us on social media, switch over to YouTube or Instagram. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian, you can check us out on Telegram. All of those handles are at Roqe Media. All right, let's get to our three guests. This is, as I say, a special themed episode of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Here we go. This is the Screen Gems. Get to it. Our first guest today has not only lived the quote-unquote life of an Iranian, but has also played the role a few times as an actor. Quite recently, you've likely seen her on your screens in the blockbuster movie American Assassin as Annika, an Iranian-Turkish double agent, not to mention her recurring lead role in the American network TV series SEAL Team. Shiva Negar is an Iranian-Canadian actress and model, born in Iran, raised in Turkey and then Canada, and now Los Angeles. Shiva started her career as a child performer, and after overcoming myriad challenges, paved her way into the acting industry of North America. Some of Shiva's significant credits include the action thriller American Assassin, as well as the feature film Becoming Burlesque, in which she starred, and television shows such as My Babysitter's a Vampire and The Art of More and Hudson and Rex. Shiva Negar joins me from Los Angeles, California. Hi, Shiva.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
This is fun. It's great to have you on the program. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, of course.
You know, I've known you for quite a while. I know you've worked really hard for this. Do you still have moments where you think, wow, I'm in LA, I've been in a blockbuster film, I'm really doing this?
To be honest, sometimes you forget. And that's thing I'm grateful for this time, because it is a slow time where you can self-reflect and sort of, look back and be more present and see what you've done, where you've come from, where you're going, why you're doing what you're doing, basically, and your purpose and everything. So, I definitely have moments where I think back, and sometimes, I have this diary that I've started to read from my childhood. I kept it somehow with me this whole time, and I haven't been able to read the entire thing yet, but it is actually the symbol of what I'm writing. But my point is, I look back and I'm like, wow, I've come from such different worlds, and migrating from the Middle East, Iran to Turkey, and then Canada and US, and it's been quite a journey. And and I'm really grateful for everything. And it is nice to look back and see how far you've come.
Shiva, take us back. So you left Iran when you were very young. You were around 7 years old. What do you remember from that time? What were you writing in that diary in those early years?
I had this diary that's called Daftar Khatarat in Farsi. And I'm so glad that I have it, because it literally, like when you open it, it literally has my full name, and it says Shiva Negar, and it says grade 1 in Farsi. And the diary starts in Farsi. I mean, I'm actually amazed of how well I was writing in Farsi. I don't think I can write that well right now. It starts out Farsi, and then near the middle of it, it starts changing to Turkish, because we migrated to Turkey, and we were in Istanbul for about 4.5 years. And then near the end of the diary, it changes to English, and that's when we migrated to Canada.
That's so interesting. It's a tapestry of your journey. Why did you end up in Istanbul? Did you want to go to Turkey? Was that your mom's first destination where you guys wanted to go?
It was a part of, no, it wasn't, we weren't planning to live in Turkey. It was a transit. It was supposed to be short term, and it didn't end up being short term, and it ended up being 4 years. And when you speak to a lot of immigrants, Iranian immigrants, and we all have these fascinating stories, and obviously nothing turns out the way you plan on or on your timeline per se. So that was not the final destination for sure, and we were not supposed to be there for that long. And the final destination was supposed to be North America.
What was it like to be a Persian girl, a little kid, transplanted to Turkey? How did that go for you?
To be honest, Jian, I feel like all my life, because we moved a lot, I feel like I was always trying to fit in and be socially accepted in wherever I was. And I never felt like I belonged, because my environment kept changing. I was 7, and from what I remember in Iran, just when I was trying to, have friends and sort of fit in some kind of a social world at that age, we left. And then we sort of started from scratch again in a foreign country where you don't know the language. So for me at that age, again, I was trying to sort of get used to my new environment. And because we did end up staying there for 4 years, I started getting used to it. I speak Turkish now. I'm almost fluent. I don't have much practice anymore, but I was speaking like the native language with the Turkish citizens there. And I started finding my social circle there, and I had friends, and I was adjusting basically. And then again, 4 years later, we left. So I had to go through that whole experience all over again in Toronto during my adolescence. And that was very difficult. It was very difficult because, it's a different world. Canada, North America is a very different world than that part of the world. And for me to adjust going to school and in high school, and again, I was trying to be socially accepted and trying to make friends with people that were born and raised in Toronto. And it wasn't easy. So for me, certain accomplishments that could be just normal to some other people, like graduating from high school or entering university and getting my degree, that was, in Canada, that was such a big deal for me when I accomplished it, because I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I'm a part of this world now, and I feel like I fit in. But it was quite difficult to constantly try to transition. But one thing I did also learn from all these experiences is also to embrace who you are and not try to fit in all the time as well. So
your mother is so fabulous. I've met her obviously, and she's lovely, and she's and you have always seemed very confident and popular. So is there a disconnect between the way you were perceived and the person you felt you were?
Yes, there was a huge disconnect, and that's also partially me trying to always be. I love people, and I consider myself very social, and growing up, especially in Toronto, I was always trying to be that, happy girl. And I was trying to go with what was expected of me, like the norm and that sort of like traditional pathway and, go to school, get a full-time job and get married, have kids and go with what your family basically wants you to do. And I was in that path and I wasn't internally, I just wasn't happy. I really wanted to do something different. And no matter how much I was, it took me a long time to try to find my way and find my calling because I didn't really have guidance. And everyone that I was growing up around me in Toronto, my friends and family, nobody was in the field that I'm in now and in the industry that I'm in now. And so it took a long time for me to find myself and my purpose.
You did a degree in psychology at York University in Toronto. You started working with a developer. You were working in business. Where obviously there were times when you expected that was going to be your life. What was the precipitant for you to find the courage or take the step to say, no, I'm gonna give the arts a shot?
I was always doing theater. I mean, I started with music even from the days I was in Turkey. So I was always doing theater and art on the side. So when I was in high school, I was constantly in the drama program. And then when I entered university, obviously I had to support myself as well. So I always had to have a full-time job. So I grew up with a single mom for the longest time because there was a big gap where I didn't grow up with my dad. And so I always had to make sure that I have a job on the side. And even though I knew what I wanted to do, I couldn't fully do it because I had to go through, basically do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. So I was always keeping it on the side. And when I entered university, I did get an agent. And, I was going on auditions. I was in school and I was taking every bit of dollar that I was making and I was spending it on film school and acting workshops and seminars. And obviously people don't take you seriously at the same time. And my mom, of course, wanted what's best for me, but she was like, this is great that you love doing that. And she loves music herself. She has an art background, and she's like, this is great. When you get a job, this is such a good thing to do as a hobby. So everyone was under the impression that this is going to be a hobby, but I always knew, and I think I even mentioned it to you before, since I've known you for so long. It's something that I always knew I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to go about it. Yeah.
In that middle period where you were, you're doing the psychology degree, or you're working in jobs, and you haven't quite taken the 100% step to pursue acting. Was some of your own trepidation? Did some of that come around being not having a Canadian or an American lineage? I remember the first time we met. you were. This was like, I don't know, 15 years ago, a long time ago. You were interviewing me at a Nowruz event. We were both at this Nowruz event, and you were working for like this Iranian TV station or something, and so I always thought of you as very Iranian, because that was my first time I'd seen you. You were like this Irani girl, speaking Farsi, interviewing me at a Nowruz event.
With very broken Farsi.
So did you think, I'm Iranian, I'm a Middle Eastern person, how am I ever going to be Jodie Foster or Charlize Theron?
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, what I wanted to pursue felt so out of reach, and it's not something that was overnight. I mean, it's been something that I've been dreaming of and having these goals for years and years, even since I was in Turkey, and all these years that I was in Canada, and it really felt out of reach, especially because I didn't feel, yes, I wasn't born and raised in North America. I'm ethnic. And yeah, I actually became even more involved. There's a big Persian community, obviously, in Toronto. And my Farsi got better, actually, when we moved to Toronto than when we were in Turkey because of this huge Iranian population in Toronto, and I made a lot of Persian friends, and one thing led to another, and I did the interviews, and I did some show that was on satellite, and and I did a film with Andy, which was my very first feature film called Lost Journey, starring Reza Sholeh as well. But I had to fight against that a lot, especially because the world was very different when I was starting, and right now there's more involvement of ethnic or ethnically ambiguous actors and performance, and I think Hollywood has become a lot more welcoming.
I was going to ask you whether you feel now the Middle Eastern background is there's a bit of I feel like it's a myth that you know that's propagated upon immigrant people now, like, oh, you have it easy because you're ethnic, because everybody wants ethnic casting now. Do you feel like it's actually helpful now, or is it just not as problematic to be Middle Eastern background?
No, I don't think it's helpful. I do think that the industry still has a long way to go. I really do. Because even though I really love the fact that some projects, especially films, take more chances to showcase diversity, there's still a lot of TV that it's still, playing it safe and sort of not going to the gray area and just sticking with what's safe. So I do think they still have a long way to go, but yeah, at least now it's normal. It's very normal, and there's definitely a lot more opportunities. There's a lot more, like when you look at breakdowns, when you get scripts and things, and there are a lot more character breakdowns that are not just plain American or plain Canadian, and they are looking for that diversity and the ethnicity. So it's at least that's a great thing. Yes.
Let me ask you about American Assassin. This is among the work you've done. This is a big film, a big box office film. Michael Keaton, it's got a big cast. Mm-hmm. How does Shiva Negar? And by the way, you don't have some sort of side role in this. You're a major character in this film. How did you get this role?
Yeah, I was sent the script through my manager here, so I read the script. I reached out to my manager right away, and I'm like, I have to take for this. The casting director was in London, and the director lived in New York, and I was in Los Angeles at the time. And I had actually it was only a year into me moving to Los Angeles. And so I reached out to my manager, and I'm like, I have to do this. This is me. I have to take for this, and I have to, show that this character exists in real life, because obviously it's a fictional character. I tested for it. I put myself on tape. I sent in the audition. Then I basically got a call back where the director wanted to meet me. So I Skyped with the director, and we spoke a lot about the character and the storyline. And then I met with the producers and the executive team at the CBS Films, and it just one thing led to another. And they offered me the role, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've had to this day in my career.
It is almost like it was written for you. It's an Iranian Turkish character, although I don't know if you're a spy, if you've grown up a spy, but you got the Iranian Turkish part. You play this spy but this is also arguably, Shiva, it's a very American blockbuster movie. You've developed this fan base now in Iran. What was the reaction of the Iranian community to this role?
Yeah, it's definitely a blockbuster American movie, and to be honest, we had to speak about some parts. I mean, luckily I had room to work on some of the dialect and some parts of the script, because even though it's not based on any facts and it's just fictional, it's based on a series of novels actually. But it does touch up on some political or social issues that could be relatable in a way. And I wanted to make sure that this doesn't bother anybody in any way, because at the end of the day, it's just an action thriller movie. And I want to say, once the film reached internationally to all the other countries in Iran, I want to say 90% was very well taken. But then there was a 10% that I guess misinterpreted, and I did get some hate mail, I'm not going to lie. And I actually received some messages saying, "Oh, you're a traitor, and you're betraying your country. And so I did have some negative, but I mean, that's a given. As an artist, you can't please everyone, and everyone misinterprets or interprets things differently. And so I had my share of a little bit of a hate.
And how did that feel? How did you deal with that?
As an artist, you're putting yourself out there in everything. And this is not the only project that this happened. Now, obviously, this was a little related to Iran because there is a part of the plot. You know, there are some Iranian actors, including me and Navi Negar. And so, but even with Becoming Burlesque and other films, you know, you putting yourself out there, and you have to be able to take constructive criticism. And I really like to believe that I've become resilient enough when it comes to that, because it really is field of rejection and vulnerability when you're an artist, and you're opening yourself up to the world size.
With that said, you know, and everybody needs to eat and do gigs. Do you worry about roles that can underscore stereotypes or negative images of Iranians? This is something that Moz has talked about as well. So if your manager called you tomorrow and said, listen, I've got a massive gig for you, a big film for you. You're going to be the co-star of it, but you have to play an Iranian terrorist. What? How do you react to that?
Oh, wow. Good question. Luckily, I mean, it's up to me whether I try to play roles that, and I feel like this was a part of my purpose. And even starting out, it took a lot of years for me to fight against this, for people to take me seriously. But I'm actually determined, and I feel like I'm at a place where I can decide what story I want to tell and what characters I want to play. And I have become, I mean, when you're first starting out, you're limited in a way because you're working your way up and you're trying to build your resume and get out there. And but I have become more selective, and to be honest, I'm focusing more on empowering stories and empowering female stories. And I want every project that I work on to be more of the voice of women who can't have a voice, especially from the Middle East and that part of the world that I come from. And I'm focusing more on that. So if I'm supposed to play an Iranian terrorist, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. It would depend on a lot of, you know, the character development and what the backstory is. But my focus mainly is to tell inspiring, heroic stories of females around the world who are like my mom, or who are immigrants and refugees and single moms and young girls with big dreams. So those are the people that I want to tell their stories of.
How much of yourself do you put into these roles, whether it's Becoming Burlesque or in American Assassin? I had read that, or maybe I saw an interview with you where you said you did a lot of the stunts yourself, you know, when he's trying to drown you in the bathtub and all of that. Spoiler alert, you know, but there's a scene where, for example, you have a gun pointed at Navid, who's playing the foreign minister, Behruz, and yes. I was thinking about you in that moment. I mean, your eyes and the anger in your facial expression, it feels very real. Tell me about when you shoot a scene like that and how it feels to be holding a gun at someone who symbolically in the movie has taken your family from you and represents the Iranian state, you know?
Yeah. It's actually really interesting that you just brought up that scene, because I do give my 100% in every scene. And I always say, I mean, every time if I'm speaking on a panel about acting per se, I don't even like calling it acting. I'll call it being. Because if you're not being in that moment, and if you're not giving your 100%, then it's not authentic. And the camera can see through, and you just mentioned my eyes. The camera sees everything, and you really have to get yourself there. Now, it could be very frustrating and it could be exhausting to get yourself there. But that scene actually, and because the director, Michael Cuesta, does have an idea of my life story, a little bit of my background and my upbringing and my immigration, and he did actually come up to me right before that scene. Now the scene is really short when you watch it, but it was a much longer scene where I'm pointing the gun at someone who has killed my family. And he told me, and he's like, Shiva, if there's one part where I do want you to go there, it's now. And I said, okay, and no problem. And the same thing with the bathtub too. And yes, I did. I want to say 90%. There was only one move they didn't let me do, but I did most of my stunts, and I really took myself there. And yes, it can be exhausting to really emotionally get to those layers, you know, and I have a lot of layers. So, but yeah, I definitely give my 110% every time.
It's great to talk to you, Shiva. Thanks for doing this. Stay safe.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing
thank you.
the new films and to watching you speak Farsi on camera too.
Thank you so much.
Thank
nice
you so
talking
much.
to you too.
Khudafiz. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Shiva Negar, Iranian-Canadian actress and model. She joined us from Los Angeles, California today. You are listening to a special themed episode of Roqe. We're doing this all month, these themed episodes. This one's called The Screen Gems. Stay tuned for the next one coming up, which is what? What's the next one?
It's the influencers.
The influencers. That's right. Our next episode is the influencers. Yes. Kusha Alakband, yes. Bahar Eslami, right. And Picasso Moin. That's a big episode. Yes. So very interesting. Folks, we'll bring that to you in just a few days. That's the next themed episode of Roqe. This one, The Screen Gems. Remember, for all things Roqe, you can go to our website, roqemedia.com, where you can become a patron of our show. And all of our episodes and our guests and our video clips and the Roqe funnies and the Roqe moments, all of those can be found at roqemedia.com. Ponta, the artist, makes it her mission to make that website interesting. She's done a great job. So check out roqemedia.com. Also, if you want to comment on anything on this program, do so on any of our platforms, or you can email us at info@roqemedia.com. info@roqemedia.com. Well, our next guest is someone who's come a long way from the taboos of her home country of Iran. But even now, controversies as an Iranian Muslim woman can follow her all the way to India, where she resides and is a massive star. Mandana Karimi is an actress and model based in Mumbai. She was born and raised near Tehran in a conservative Muslim family. In her late teens, she left her career as a flight attendant in Iran to pursue professional modeling in Malaysia. After working on various international modeling projects for top designers, she ended up in Mumbai to pursue a modeling and acting career there. Since then, Mandana has been cast in numerous feature films and Indian TV commercials with renowned people such as Shah Rukh Khan, Saif Ali Khan, and Kareena Kapoor and Arjun Kapoor. She has appeared in major movies such as Roy, Baghjani, Kiakul Hain Hum 3, and also a TV series called Ishqbaz. She was also the first confirmed contestant on the reality TV show Big Boss 9, where she was one of the finalists of the season. In addition, Mandana is a humanitarian who has worked extensively with underprivileged children in India. She's an impressive mixture of talent, celebrity, ambition, and fortitude, and this is her first interview ever in English aimed at the Iranian diaspora. Mandana Karimi joins me from Mumbai, India. Hello, Mandana.
Hi. Such a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for saying that. You're this huge star now across Asia, as I intimated in the introduction. It's hard to not see you as this glamorous, well-off star, but you come from a pretty modest background in Iran. Can you describe your childhood in Iran?
Sometimes story as a story, and you watch a movie and you see that person from where they come from and what they achieve, and it's just two different people. You always think where this person has come from. Why, like, was she like this from the beginning? That's exactly me, because I come from, I wasn't born in Tehran. I was born in Save. Save is a very small city near, like, how many hours from Tehran? Like 2 hours, I think. It's a very small city. I come from a very basic, small family. I've come absolutely from a father who had a normal job to kind of just survive in his life and taking care of his family. I come from a place where there is no value to art. There is no value to movies. You can't actually watch any films. It's more like an illegal thing, you know. It's and especially my family, because I wasn't introduced to movies, or I wasn't introduced to TV or cartoons or English or none of that. Very basic house, barely survive or barely managing to just survive. And I used to go to a public school where in Sabe, obviously we used to cover and, you know, wear hijab. And yeah, so that was my basically my childhood. Yeah,
So
that's where I
yeah,
come
you're
from.
not exactly, I forget the name of Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith's kid. You know, who's just expected to be a star following in their footsteps.
Yeah.
That was obviously not the prescribed goal for you. But when you would lie in bed in this modest town in Iran as a kid, was this even conceivable in your head that you're going to become this star, that you're going to become this international model and actress?
No, you know what was in my mind? I tell you a funny story. I used to fight with my family, but okay, so from outside, I used to be this really shy, skinny, big glasses, wearing a big glasses, and not, I wasn't even able to stand up for myself as a kid. I was a really good student. I couldn't even like take any credit for myself in my school while I was doing everyone's homework. But I had one thought from my childhood where I used to dream myself outside of this family, outside of this city, not seeing anyone around me. Like, I didn't want to have my family, my dad, my mom, my brothers. And I used to keep telling myself that one day I'm going to leave you all. I'm gonna reach somewhere. I didn't know where that is.
Wow.
You know, I didn't have any idea. But I used to tell my mother that one day I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna prove that I'm not part of this family. You have adopted me. You guys are so weird, and you know, I don't know how do you think. And I used to be a trouble child. You know, I used to have all this weird thing saying to my mother that just tell me the truth. Like, have you stolen me from a rich family? Or have I, like, I was from some other city that you have brought me here?
اونا چی میگفتن؟ How would they respond to that?
They used to just like be really angry at me all the time. And sometimes I used to get beaten up because I was just talking too much of rubbish.
And they were conservative, right? They're quite religious.
Oh, yeah. I was 8 or maybe I was 9. One of our neighbors, one of the daughters, she used to go to school with me. And I remember she told me that there was a boy in our neighborhood. Apparently, she touched him or they talked or something. I don't remember exactly, but I came home and I told my mom, like, oh my God, like she has a boyfriend, you know, something like that. And you won't believe, I was not allowed to go to my school. I wasn't allowed to talk to that girl anymore because for them was like that's wrong. You know, you're gonna get married and that's it. There is no boys. There is no talking about boys, and that's how my family was, and they were very conservative, and as we call them, they were chadori. You know.
How would you even have the idea that that's not normal? I mean, where did the rebelliousness come in you?
To be honest, now when I'm every year when I'm getting older, and you know, I keep thinking about it and I'm trying to put sense to it. I think my grandmother, my mom's mother, because she was the only woman in entire family. She used to be a nurse, and because she was working in hospital and she had few colleagues who they were in Iranian, they were from India or they were from other countries. They were staying in Tehran. So she used to come home and she used to talk about these people and where they come from. And I used to be really fascinated by my grandmother because she was the only one on those years. She went to Mecca and Suriye and all those places, right? So she used to travel, and when she used to come back, she used to come back with all these stories about plane and she did this, she did that. And I think probably my grandmother has been my biggest influencer, I can say, when I was a kid, because when I think about my mother and the way she is, she doesn't know anything more than that life where her entire generations they have lived it, from getting married, struggling with life, being okay with whatever they have, even if she's getting beaten up by her husband. That's how it is, that's how love is, or that's how you keep your marriage. Or let's say about the whole drama with, I don't know, with the cousins, with the family. You have everyone else into your business and all that, all that whole culture. That's what works for her. But from when I was a kid, I used to tell my mother, why you are tolerating this? Like, why you're not giving my father divorce? Why you not leaving him when he's just such a, horrible person to you? And yeah, I think my grandmother has been my biggest inspiration, because at the age of 15, when I used to start talking about leaving my house and moving out of apartment, she used to tell me, be your own boss, make your own money, make sure that you're going to study, make sure you're not going to listen to your mother and get married when you're 17 or 18. She used to tell me all that. She used to be like, follow your dreams, follow your heart, do whatever you feel like is right, don't listen to other people. And unfortunately, I lost my grandmother when just 2 years before I left Iran.
The story goes you were a flight attendant in Iran, and then you left when
Yeah.
you were only 17. So apparently you were quite a young flight attendant, and then you
Yeah.
become this professional model in Malaysia. Now the
Yeah.
Persian girl you just described, the awkward with big glasses, academically oriented, quiet Persian girl. There's a disconnect. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems there's a certain amount of self-confidence that you need to be a model, especially at the top level of it. When did you realize that, I guess, you're attractive, or that you can be this international model, that's a possibility for you?
Okay, so this question has a couple of angles into the answer. First of all, I never thought that I'm going to become a model. And also, there is a misinformation on social media and on my bio online. I never became a flight attendant. In
Oh.
Iran, there are courses. So basically, when you finish your diploma or before you finish it, you can take those courses. If you finish your course, you get a degree from them. And after that, they start training you on an actual plane. And if you would like to, you can become a flight attendant. So I fill up my form, I finish my course. But what was behind my mind is finding a way to run away from my family and to run away from Iran. I didn't want to stay there. And to be honest, for me, that was my master plan, to kind of find a job where I'm going to travel a lot, right? So that was my master plan, to kind of, running away, which after I finished my course, I was like, I don't think this is what I like. I don't think that I want to be a flight attendant. And so what happened is that at the same time, I met few girls. They used to live in Malaysia. So I met them in Iran at the party, and they were telling me, you look beautiful, you should become a model, and we live in Malaysia, and we study there, and when we have free time, we do some modeling. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how to do it. So I met a friend of theirs who was a photographer, who looked at me and he laughed and he said, listen, I'm just going to take some pictures of you because your friends are asking. But yeah, okay, fine. I mean, you look nothing like a model, but if you want to take pictures, sure.
That's encouraging. Yeah.
I tell you something, I am a big believer of karma. If you make fun of someone, and if that someone has a true faith to themselves and to what they want to achieve in life, they will definitely achieve it. And it doesn't matter how many people they come and laugh at them. I still have that picture of my first photo shoot. I look weird looking Persian girl with no eyebrows, and I've done a horrible pose. And no wonder this photographer told me that I don't look like a model, because I wasn't, my friend. But the thing is, I got an email and I got a message on my Instagram. This is, I think, almost a year ago, from some photographer who my team told me that there is a message by someone in Farsi, but it's been repeatedly sending to your DM. So they said, "Do you want to check it out?" So I opened the message, and guess who was the person? Is the photographer who has messaged me and saying me he's so proud of me. He knew that I'm going to achieve whatever I want, and one day I'm going to be the biggest model, which was not really true, but yeah. So
Wow.
that's how I became a model. Yeah.
I just have to take a couple of steps back because you talked about
Yeah.
needing to escape, needing to leave Iran. And,
Yeah.
this is not something that's going to be extraordinary to a lot of people in the diaspora because they've had that experience. For others of us, I was born in England. I grew up there. I grew up in Canada. It never really occurred to me that I want to escape from Canada, So that seems
Yeah.
that seems scary to leave the country you've grown up in, to leave your family, to leave all of the things that you've known and just go. Were you scared, or was it somehow natural for you to do that?
Well, what you're saying is really right, because let's say if I have a child tomorrow and I'm going to be staying in India for the rest of my life, and I would never want that for my child, to have the feeling of running away from his or her house. That's such a terrible, terrible feeling. Yes, I was lucky that God knows how I survived. I don't know it. To be honest, if you ask me how did I survive, what was it in my mind that I thought I can leave the country with $700 in my pocket, and by not even speaking the language, I didn't even know English when I left Iran. I think what it was for me, definitely, I got introduced to a lot from age of 11 to 16. So we shifted to Tehran when I was 10. Suddenly I was introduced to a bigger life, a bigger city. Most of my friends from my high school, they used to have fancy cars and fancy houses, and some of them, their parents, they were doctors, or they had family members who they lived abroad, and I got introduced to Mahware and TV and all that, right? So suddenly I felt like, okay, this all this looks amazing. They have a happy life, and everything looks so normal, and everyone is so happy. So I want to have that. I want that. It doesn't matter what the price is going to be. I don't care. I want to get it, and I want to achieve those. And I think the drive that I had, the what's it called it, the crave that I had for achieving things. Probably in the beginning, it started from I don't know, being able to buy things or have a fancy car or a house or whatever. In the beginning, start from that drive, and later on in life, obviously, I have evolved in my life, and my desire has changed. But I think in the beginning, for me, was simply to not wanting to stay in a country like that, and also it comes from a family that I belong to. I didn't really have a happy childhood. My childhood has been really difficult, and from broken home, and from not having enough money, or not being able to buy things that you want. From all that, I think all that kind of forced me to leave the country. And obviously later on, when I was a teenager, I was arrested twice for no reason, for going to party, and that also didn't really uh, work for me.
In
Even as a
Tehran?
teenager, I used to question. Yeah, in Tehran, I've been arrested twice. So for me, even as a teenager, that didn't agree with me. With my mind, I used to think like, what have I done wrong? Why do I have to be in a place that having a good time with your friends and watching, I don't know, a movies on a CD where there's a naked picture, or a or actress who's not even naked, who's just wearing a dress. Why should be that a problem? Or why should I be miserable and sad and being in a jail because of things which are normal in other country? So I think that kind of made me to want to escape, you know?
Yeah. So let me ask you
Yeah.
something around the question
Yeah.
of identity, and it's really hard to embark on the journey of this show, talking to people, personalities, and is exploring stories of the Iranian diaspora all around the world, without without hitting up against this wall in a lot of cases of paradox, of contradiction, where somebody will talk about their love of our common culture and our background and our people and our family values and all of that, and then also tell this harrowing story, as you have, of wanting to escape this country and not being able to work there, and being quite bitter about elements of it. How do you come to terms with that paradox, and where is your identity for you? I mean, you've lived in different places now. No one would blame you if you wanted to say, I'm Indian and this is where I'm going to be and this is what I'm doing. I mean, it's that country's been good to you. Do you still feel you're an Iranian? Where do you fit in all of that?
I had my struggle, you know. I had it for many years. I didn't know where I belonged anymore because, you know, I left Iran. I started living in Asia. So I was in Malaysia for some time. Then I was in Singapore. I was in Hong Kong. I never felt like I belonged to any of these places until when I got my first project in India, which is 2009. I came here for a few days, and I love the people on set, and I felt like they are quite similar to Iranian culture. So I left India, and again I had an offer for India, and this time I came for a longer time, for 6 months, which was great. You know, I made such amazing friends, and the work was good. I was loving the people. It felt like home. I think what home means to me is when I might not be from India, but I feel this place has given me so much, so much, that I don't feel the burden. I don't feel that I'm missing home, as which is Iran. The last time when I went to Iran, I was missing home, Mumbai. You know, that place was familiar for me. Iran is familiar. I know the language, I know the people, and all that, right? But I don't feel burden anymore, because I don't know. Is it because of I'm growing older? You know, because when you are younger, you don't know where you belong. And I was lucky enough that I found India, and I found a job which I live for my job, and you know, people kind of accepted me here. And obviously it's really tough. It's really tough to start from zero. It's really tough because I don't speak their language, and I'm not from here. A lot of people think that I'm Indian, but I'm not.
It's been such a pleasure getting to spend some time with you, to talk to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
It feels so good to talk to someone who really understands, you know, where you come from. It's amazing.
Stay safe out there, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Mandana Karimi. She's an actress, she's a model, she's a Bollywood star. She joined us from Mumbai, India today. This is a special themed episode of Roqe, the Screen Gems. We're doing this all month before we start September with a new September to remember, Shaya, with a bunch of new episodes of Roqe. We're doing our themed programs until then with some really fantastic guests. We've had Shiva Negar in Los Angeles, Mandana Karimi in Mumbai. Let's get to our third guest today, an Iranian-American actress with an outstanding career on stage and screen. Nikar Zadegan was actually born in Heidelberg, Germany, and raised in Northern California. She studied theater and dance on a performance scholarship at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and graduated in English literature. She has also studied at the Sorbonne in Paris. Necar made her Broadway debut with the role of the leper in the Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award-nominated Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, opposite Robin Williams. She has worked at some of the world's most prestigious theaters, and she toured internationally in the Persian language production of Satellite with Love. Her film credits include Unthinkable alongside Samuel L. Jackson, Judd Apatow's You Don't Mess with the Zohan, and the independent film Elena Undone. Necar's television credits include Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, The Good Doctor, 24, Emily Owens, MD, Masters of Sex, Here and Now, alongside Tim Robbins and Holly Hunter, and she has most recently been starring as Special Agent Hannah Khoury on NCIS New Orleans. She is prolific and impressive, and Nikar Zadagon joins me from Santa Fe. Hello.
Hi. You said that very well. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you for approving of the way I said that. I appreciate it. What a pleasure it is to have you on this program. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I guess that you just finished shooting your final scenes and final episodes for NCIS New Orleans. I always think the life of an actor, even a successful one like yourself, is such a hustle. Like unless you're an icon that can just pick any role you want, you're always hustling for the next gig. And I've got to think that having a regular role in a big series, a franchise, NCIS, must have been kind of a safety net. Is it hard from that standpoint, strictly as a careerist, to see this end?
No, not for me. But it is all those things that you mentioned. You just never know, and I think when you jump into something, and it's a big deal to leave your life. I have some friends who have kids that won't take a job that's not in LA or New York or something because the kids are in school and what have you. Some people move their families around and stuff like that. I'm not in that position, and the idea of going someplace else to take a job is exciting to me, depending on where it is. I mean, people take jobs for different reasons, and sometimes the location might, play a factor in that stuff. So it is a big deal to do that. So the idea of it closing also kind of gives you your life back and maybe gives you another opportunity. After a while, not just in this business, but in your life, you recognize that every opportunity or chance or event, whether it's a closed door or an open door, is actually good,
And also that everything ends. Nothing lasts forever. And so a change can be a good thing. When I was thinking about this interview, I was thinking it's really hard to know where to start with you. I called you prolific in the introduction. That really applies to you. There's so much that you've done that I would want to talk to you about. I would just do an interview about your character Dalia Hassan on 24 because I was an addict of that series. But let me start with a few minutes into the interview. Your background, you were born in Germany. Why did your parents move to America?
My folks already lived in the U.S. My mother grew up here in California, Northern California. And then my father came to Los Angeles to pursue his education, his higher education, with the intention of going back to Iran. I think anytime you are educated in a foreign country, it's exciting for the country of your origin, to come back to. I think, over the years, there's been discussions in my family about, what it would have been like had things been different, had they stayed in Europe, had they decided to go back to Iran at the time. I mean, it's interesting. I think I don't really think about it a lot, but from time to time, I think that this was absolutely not supposed to be my life, but it is.
You really are diverse in terms of the roles you've played, and quite deliciously so. Like I look at your resume and go, wow, this is already, I mean, you're young, but this body of work is so interesting in the diversity of it. Do you think your international upbringing and identification in these different languages and these different places have fed you as an artist, as an actor, in terms of facilitating all that diversity of roles?
I'm sure, but it's also what I wanted. It's also the way that I saw myself. It's also the way that I knew how to compete. So those were helpful in kind of creating the career path that I wanted, and also what it, was doled out to me. You, I think, become a product of your opportunities more than anything else.
Was it clear that you were destined to be on stage and screen?
I was very liberal artsy, even as a child, and I was always very unafraid of being kind of in the center of attention or anything. Like I was, I didn't have stage fright,
right,
or anything like that. And I found it very interesting.
You do your due diligence. You get the degree in literature, but it impresses me how young you got started. I mean, we've had people on the show, actually, actors and actresses on the show who, especially with a Persian background, talk about how they had to do all this university, and then they had to there's this like decade-long process of negotiating with the parents to, I want to go and do pilot season and but when you got to start at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, you must have been a teenager, right? Still.
Yeah, I was in high school. Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to ask you about that because I have some experience with the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I played there many times.
I know.
It is just, especially in the 1990s. You were there in the late 90s, I think. And it was this magical, for folks who don't know, there's the Edinburgh Festival, which is an official theater festival. But then the Fringe Festival was this thing. I mean, it is this thing, but I don't know what it's quite where it's at right now. But it was this magical thing in the late 90s of a diversity of art, thousands of performances of all different kinds happening in this beautiful town in Edinburgh in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And so tell me about that time for you and what you learned from getting your start there.
Oh, it was so cool. What a wonderful experience. I know, just yourself having been there too, it's just so cool. There's so many people, so many artists from so many different places. And it was just, and remember, you're doing a few, we were doing 2 plays in tandem, but people are there doing like 6 or 7 shows in tandem. It's just so cool. And you're staying, it's like a student life,
yes.
It's very academic, and it's just a celebration of art, and people are wild, and the nights are late, and it's kind of mature, but also childlike. And, in Edinburgh, which is very like fairies and leprechauns, and you know what I mean? And Loch Ness Monster. And
what were you doing? What were you playing in?
So I was doing 2 shows in tandem. One was Beauty and the Beast, and one was Peribanias, which is like this folkloric Beauty and the Beast.
So all of this is kind of a setup, because just a few years later, you make your Broadway debut. And I mean, it's quite spectacular. You make your Broadway debut with Robin Williams. Tell me what that meant to you.
Somehow, it just happened. It was really wonderful to gain Robin because the role had been written for him. And what was really cool was, yes, it was Robin's Broadway debut. So it was a very big deal. Everybody came to see the show. The politicians came, all the actors, everybody came, But what was more exciting than that was that we were so prepared for the show. Our rehearsals weren't us rehearsing. Our rehearsals were Robin rehearsing and getting into the flow with us. And what was so cool was that Robin's process was vocal, and so it was like watching this masterclass unfold before us. That was really our rehearsals, was watching Robin kind of get to know the character and stuff. And he was very serious and very much one of us. And he wasn't really Robin until we had press day. And then he turned on. And then I remembered, oh yeah, we have Robin Williams in the show.
When you say it was a masterclass watching him, can you put into words something what did you learn from Robin Williams?
Well, because his process was very vocal, and sometimes, you're working with an actor and they're processing it, but you're not aware of how they're processing it, because they're just processing it. But his process was just very vocal. They'd give him a note and be like, oh, okay, so, oh yeah, I'm the tiger. I'm the biggest cat in the jungle. So he'd be talking it out.
Oh, that's what you mean by vocal. Yeah, I see. So yeah. he was almost narrating how he was learning, how he was taking on the role.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right.
That's so
he was
interesting.
Narrating how he's learning it. I think anytime you witness somebody who's very good at what they do, figuring it out in front of you, it's a masterclass. I love that about sports. That's why I love sports so much. And I think that watching people play at the top of their game is exciting. Watching anybody do anything at the top of their game is exciting. Even the OJ trial was exciting for that reason. You know what I mean? You're watching these lawyers just duke it out. So he was very it was just him in this role he carved. You got to see it.
Necar, it's so interesting that you've been successful on stage and screen. I mean, I don't know if this is like an old school idea I have, but I feel like it used to be that actors would generally stay in their lane. They'd be a stage actor or they'd be a film actor. There was a few crossovers, but I think of someone like Bernadette Peters. She's always been, known for her stage work. And then there's somebody that you've only ever seen on TV. And you've somehow done both throughout your career. Is it a different toolbox to perform in a play versus a TV show or a film? One would think it is. How different is it for you, and how do you learn to navigate those two worlds?
Well, I'm very comfortable with it now in both worlds. I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. I heard Alan Alda say once that the only thing he does different when he does a play is he talks louder. And I think, maybe that's a simplification of it. It kind of, it's kind of the same thing, but there are different things about theater that you don't get to do with the camera. First of all, the performance is all your own. The director at a certain point will leave, and then it belongs to you and the actors. And that control is desirable, I think. Then with film and television, since you don't have that, the trust and also freedom of that, like a lot of times I do watch the things that I'm in, but sometimes I don't, especially if it's a series and it's been going on. Like, oh, did you watch the show last night? No, I didn't. I watched the 300 other episodes, but I missed the one last night. You know what I mean? Because once I'm done shooting it, it's really, I'm done. My job is done. And then I watch it for fun, but it's often not what I did, exactly. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's cooler with the music and the editing. It's just awesome. If you're doing green screen, for example, you have no idea what it's going to look like, Then there's things like just the camera. The camera, while it can be intimidating, I think, sometimes for theater actors when you first start, it's actually a really helpful asset because it's like that one person in the audience that's always there and you can just play to them the entire time. So it's very intimate. A raise of an eyebrow can be meaningless in theater, but it's very effective on camera. So I do tend to want to play bigger. And when you say bigger or smaller, I think that can be confusing for a young actor that's not certain what those things mean, because it doesn't mean so much bigger or so much louder or overplaying at all. It just means that your house is bigger, and instead of a raise of an eyebrow, maybe you get a whole turn of the head, right. And using your body and everything. Right. These are things you don't get to do all the time.
When you talk about control and this back to the versatility that you have, I wonder about, I look at these different roles you're playing, and I wonder about the elements of your own character and personality in the characters you play. Like, for example, your Iranian background. Does that go into how you prepare for a gig or identify with your characters?
Well, it depends. It depends. If I feel like I want to give it to the character, if I feel like it's, makes sense for the character, but not all the time. I think every project I come at it differently, sometimes more similarly than others. I think I have a process that I can be very comfortable with, but it's not always necessary. Sometimes acting is easy. Sometimes the stretch is greater, but sometimes it's not so far.
So you played a popular character named Dr. Gina Bandari in the CW medical drama Emily Owens, MD. She's a proven and innovative surgeon, and the story goes that she was given a new last name after the pilot. Did you play a role in choosing the character's last name? Is that something you would do to suggest?
Yeah, it might be, but I didn't suggest it at the time. The showrunners actually asked me if it was okay if they molded the character more to my identity. And I thought it was a great idea, because in our conversations, it wasn't something that was going to kind of predicate the character. It was just to involve my background in it in a matter of representation. And I enjoyed that from a political perspective. And I thought it was a great idea. And they chose the name. And to me, it was funny. To them, it wasn't funny. But Bandari is funny to me because it's a dance.
Right.
So I say the name Gina Bandari with a wink. But, but no, they were, I appreciated that they wanted to do that. I thought it was really cool.
I was an addict of the show 24, and this is where I would have first seen you. You had this major role. Actually, when you played Dalia Hassan on 24, I think it was at the peak of 24. It was when 24 was basically the biggest show in the world.
Yeah.
How did you land that role, and what did that mean to your career?
It was a very big show. It was a very big international show, and I landed that role. I've been doing television here and there. I was doing a theatrical project at the time, but I was also, anytime I was back in Los Angeles, I was, trying to get my footing in television. And that role came to me at a time when my agent called and he said, I don't think that this is right for you. I don't think they'll necessarily want you for this, because I was 27 years old at the time. And the role was a woman, a very, kind of much more worldly than I, woman, with a 20-year-old daughter and the first lady of this country and stuff. And so he said, I got you this audition, you read for it, but just, so you can make an impression on these producers, because it's a big deal project and maybe they'll bring you for something else. So I really had the freedom of not really expecting to book the role when I went to read for it. I tried my best to, look right and appropriate. I didn't obviously age myself or anything like that. But what I always recommend to when I speak to young actors, because we talk about this, how should I look for the audition? And I never, ever personally, these things are all personal, but I never try to go in as a character.
Oh, really?
Or caricature. Yeah. I would never go in to read for a doctor in Scrubs or something, because to me, the character is deeper.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just try to not be the opposite of it, So yeah, I went in trying to look, trying to be the sophisticated person that I was trying to execute, and I just did it, the old fashioned way. I went and I auditioned, and they really liked me for it. And they brought me back. And the matter of maturity didn't come into play until they had cast the girl who played my daughter. And then we figured out that we were going to have to build the characters so the age seemed further apart, because we were about the same age at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and so we did, and I was very happy to do it because I'm a character actor. I play a lot of leads, but I'm actually a character actor. And so creating this character of this woman who was accented and much older than I, with a completely different, life, and what it meant for my career was that it was kind of the first opportunity that I'd had at that time to really have a role that was recognized by other people who worked professionally in the industry, other producers, other casting people, and stuff like that. So, yeah.
It was important. It was a hit show. You're very your character is very powerful in this, and empowered, and it's very memorable. I as soon as somebody you say Dalia Hassan, I remember, there's a lot of characters on 24, but I remember your character, and so the sort of maybe the juvenile way of thinking of this would be that the day, after that series, the phone's ringing off the hook and you can get any gig you want. But was it sort of like that at all?
In a way, I almost felt like I was being punished for doing a good job. Like everybody after that thought I was this much older woman, accented woman. And so a lot of those kinds of roles were coming my way.
Right.
And I didn't want to make a career of this character. Right. My interest was to play a variety of characters. And also, I wasn't right for those characters. I remember going to an audition, and who was there? First of all, the audition was for this woman of this age. And I got there, and I was like this 27, 28-year-old girl. And everybody there was, 60 or pushing 60, all these actresses. I shouldn't have really been at that audition. after a certain, like now I wouldn't go to something that was so wrong for me. I mean, I wouldn't even entertain something like that. But at the time I really wanted to make an impression, and I was taking chances and trying to get seen and trying to get noticed. I didn't know anybody in the business, and I had to figure out my own way and find a way to get work. And it's hard. But it's hard.
Well, let me ask you about it being hard, because I look at your career and I think you have the best career. I think the career you have is the best. I would choose that over the annoyance of being some, celebrity that's always in Us Weekly or something like that. But you also you're always working. Your roles are great roles. And I'm talking to you, and it's almost deceptive, because you seem unflappable. You seem very confident. And I certainly think at the top of the list is your talent. I mean, you are just really good at what you do. That's why you get these gigs. But you've been working regularly in good roles. And I suppose I want to address just how you are a Middle Eastern woman. We so often hear that Hollywood is tough, if not impossible, especially for non-white women getting roles. Your resume would suggest that you get anything. I mean, you've done what you wanted to. Tell me about whether it's been challenging for you and how you've somehow broken that mold of difficulty that non-white women can have.
Yeah, I don't think I was as aware of that when I was younger. I really didn't know. I was just trying to figure out how to get work. That was how I competed, was because that was what I thought I had going for me. And it was also just what I could reach out to. When I had first started working as a young woman in my 20s, young women in their 20s tell a certain story, especially before, now they talk a lot about diversity and women in the industry, and a lot of roles have opened up, I think, with more women and people of diverse backgrounds behind the scenes, and also what the appetite of the audience seems to dictate, seems to be something more interesting than what or fresher, than what has been in the past.
And the writing has changed. It's become
yes. So it gives opportunities for different people. They're still figuring that out, sort of, and everybody wants to get on the right side of this thing. Nobody wants to be canceled. They're so scared of talking about it, Right. But as a young woman in my 20s, those roles that go to young women in their 20s were the roles that were coming my way. The sexy girl in the bikini. I can't tell you how many times I auditioned in a bikini, or whatever. I can't even. It's like crazy to some people when you say that. They're like, "What?" But this is the industry, And
but that surprises me, because I don't. Your resume doesn't have a lot of those kind of roles.
Yeah, well, I didn't book them because you go there because they think you sell a certain thing, but at the end of the day, at that time, the person that was selling that story was someone who was white. The beauty of the High School Musical was a white girl, was a blonde girl. Right. The beauty of, and I was always there with those kinds of things. You're there with a few actresses and then just models. These are the auditions you're going to when you're in your 20s. And I didn't even realize how not white I was until this industry makes you even more not white. And I didn't know that. I can tell you that now, but I didn't know that at the time. And so I had to learn. Luckily, I was a character actress, and so I could compete at that level.
Before I let you go, just back to this, you're being this international person, this identity.
This international femme fatale. What can I tell you about it?
I wonder what you've heard over the years, and even more recently from Middle Eastern, from Iranian people. I mean, you're interesting because as opposed to someone like Shohreh Dashlu, who by the roles she's taken, everybody in the Iranian community kind of knows her. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Iranians who don't even know that you're Iranian, who are watching you on 24 or NCIS and don't even make the connection necessarily. What do you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that I'm Iranian, but I am, and it has been just the virtue of my path to work on the projects that I've worked on. But it's not because I don't want to work on Iranian produced projects or Iranian told stories. In fact, one of the reasons I don't work on a lot of Irano-specific projects in the States is because I find the U.S. perspective of our stories and our lives as very small. And it doesn't turn me on to read a project with a small perspective.
Right.
We are not sitting around talking about being Iranian all day long, and in these stories that through an American lens seems very, very
right.
strange to me. But the Iranian told stories that come out of Iran, for example, don't deal with that. They get to deal with their lives. Europeans do a better job of this as well. Maybe it's because their relationship to their history forces them to understand us and to know us in a different way, whereas we don't have that here in the States. Our history doesn't require us really to know about. It would help, it'd be nice for Americans to have a broader understanding of world history. Maybe they will. Oh, hi, Charlie. Hi. It's okay, Charlie.
Charlie can feel the interview coming to an end. He's like, okay. Yeah. Listen, it is Charlie. It's okay, buddy. Take it easy. Take it easy.
It's okay, Charlie. It's okay, bud. It's okay. They're very sweet, I promise.
Oh no, I have no doubt. All dogs are sweet ultimately. So I have to thank you. I mean, I really appreciate more than anything you're on your little epic adventure following a grueling end to your big series and NCIS. And I appreciate you making the time and there in Santa Fe to do this. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for this. Take care of yourself. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Nikar Zadegan, an Iranian-American actress with an outstanding career on stage and screen. She has just wrapped shooting NCIS New Orleans, where she stars as Special Agent Hannah Khoury. Necar Zadegan joined us from Santa Fe. All right. This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Join us for our next Roqe-themed episode, The Influencers, with Kusha Alakban, Picasso Moin, and Bahar Eslami. That's on Thursday. In the meantime, our website is the place for all things Roqe-related, roqemedia.com. It's where you can also become a patron of the show. Thanks to the amazing team who put Roqe together each week. Super Parissa, Ponta the Artist, producer Susan, Thoughtful Nagin, the fabulous Keon, Savvy Roham Aghay Merdad, sponsorship Sean, Captain Reza and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi and Mizun Bashi.